Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall, psychic all the way from the Gold Coast. What an interesting and exciting week it's been around the world with lots of things happening and lots of not so nice things happening too. But let's just focus on the positive. We're all here, we're all together today, and wherever you are in this amazing planet of ours, we're all sharing the same little bit of airspace at the same time. So we're looking for a little bit of positivity and some things to sort of brighten our day. So the Simply Tarot card of the week is a really nice card. It's the card of the Four of Cups. Now, the Four of Cups can mean money fluctuations. Now, when we talk about money fluctuations, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have any money. What it means is that, things are sort of fluctuating a little bit. Maybe you've got to keep a little bit more of an eye on things. The secondary meaning of this card is being offered something that you may or may not want. And you can see the person sitting under the tree there. He's got his arms folded. He's got a cup coming out of one side there, sort of offering him something. He's got 3 cups in front of him. So it's sort of being offered something that you may not want. And sometimes you've got to sit and contemplate, like sitting under the tree like this gentleman's doing, and think about it. And think about it very long and hard. Is this what you want? Is this direction you want your life to go? And it may not be. And sometimes we have to say no to something. It might sound like an incredible opportunity when it's first offered, but when you sit down and think about it and you think, well, that really doesn't suit my lifestyle or the direction that I'm heading. Yes, the money might be great, but it may, money's not everything. I mean, it's about work-life balance. It's about being true to yourself. And I think really following your own dreams. I know we all have to eat and we all have to pay our bills. So we do need to earn an income. But if you can find something that really makes your heart sing, then that's, you're halfway there, because it's not like a job. It's a pleasure to go to work because you enjoy what you do. So I think in the light of that, I think we need to all sort of sit down and be very careful this week with things that might be offered to us, that they may not be necessarily the best situation or the best opportunity for us. It may not be for our highest good. So look at it along those lines, and look at it along, you don't have to take everything that comes along. You do have the right to say thank you, but I gracefully decline. And sometimes that's the best way around something. So this week, astrologically, yes, it's a big week, as it is every week. It seems to be a big week every week for some time now. The sun has just moved in officially into Leo. So we've waved goodbye to the Cancer time of the year. We're now into the time of the year where people want to get out there and strut their stuff and sort of get on the stage and say, look at me, and I'm fantastic and flamboyant and do everything in a big way. I have lots of Leo friends and colleagues and things like that, and they never cease to amaze me that, they come out with this very forceful, strong, I'm so confident sort of attitude, and yet underneath it, this roaring lion is a tiny little pussycat that's saying, look at me, I really do feel insecure. And they really do need their ego stroked a lot of the time. So if you know a Leo when they're coming out strutting their stuff, have a look around the corner, because you'll find that more insecure little tiny pussycat there that sort of just wants attention and just wants to be reassured. I mean, look, they're interesting people. They make up a lot of our stage and musical world because they have that ability to get out there and perform and to sort of really make all of us smile. And that's a really good thing. So, happy birthday to all the Leos. It's a very exciting time of the year, and it is your time of the year to strut your stuff, as I said. So, don't waste it, move along with the times and go forward. Now, the other interesting planet that's sitting in Leo at the moment is Mercury. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication. Now, this affects each and every one of us, but because it's sitting in Leo at the moment, it's going to affect the fire signs more so, which is Leo, Sagittarius, and Aries, and the opposite sign of Aquarius. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Mercury, the planet of communication, goes retrograde or backwards 3 times a year for approximately 3 weeks at a time. Now, we're in a Mercury retrograde. Mercury will be retrograde until August 11th. So we've still got a little bit of waiting time here, people. So we need to be very aware of what does this mean. Now, when Mercury is retrograde, I always suggest to people make sure the other person has their listening ears on. If you need to have a serious conversation about something that's incredibly important, make sure that you stop and check to see that the other person is really listening and absorbing what you've got to say. They're not just giving you lip service, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but their mind's somewhere else. This is not the time to sign a legal or a government contract unless you absolutely desperately have to, because this is the time when mistakes are made, like a typo, wrong figures are put in there, or the wrong clause, or a date's left out, or something. If you do have to sign a contract or something official during this Mercury retrograde, make sure that you read it out aloud to yourself. The reasons I suggest that: you're more inclined to pick up a mistake if you read it out aloud than you are just scanning it with your eyes. Then that way you'll pick up if there's an extra zero there, or the date's wrong, or somebody's name spelled incorrectly, or whatever. You're more inclined to pick it up. This is the time when our techo stuff goes haywire too. You know, your laptop has a mind of its own, so does your cell phone, so does your tablet, so does your iPad, whatever device that you happen to be working on. Be aware that this is the time to make sure all your passwords are up to date, and that, you know, all your things going on in the background are there to protect your computer, because this seems to be when the hackers get it. They get their most energy is under a Mercury retrograde. It's also the time to be very, very aware of, if you've got to have some serious conversations with a loved one or someone important, or a boss or something like that, make sure again that they're listening to what you've got to say, but make sure you also listen to what they have to say as well. So as I said, predominantly affecting the fire signs and Aquarius, but it is washing over all the 12 signs. So don't just think, oh, because I'm a Pisces, it doesn't affect me, or a Gemini. It does. It affects each and every one of us. It's something that we have to be aware of and not frightened of. And I want to stress that, because people write up so much negativity about Mercury retrogrades. It's a time when we're supposed to sit back, chill a little bit, let our mind wander, daydream out the window, start gathering our energy for a busy period that's going to come up. And it's a time to let our mind have a little bit of a rest. And this is why they suggest don't post something, or don't send something, or don't sign something under a Mercury retrograde if you can help it, because we're supposed to be having a little bit of a chill pill here, not necessarily running on, you know, all 8 cylinders again. So just be aware of that. August 11, it will be a couple of days after that before Mercury really starts to feel the full force of going direct again. So I can't stress enough, just be on your guard. Make sure you've got your listening ears on. If you've got to have a conversation with someone that's important, just double check with them that they're really fully absorbing what you got to say, and don't be bossy about it. Be gentle about it and say, hey, you know, did you really understand what I just said? Or can you give me a recap? Probably a recap is a better way to put it. Refresh my mind what I just said, you know, so I know where I'm up to. I've lost my place. You know, you can think of a nice creative way to do it, that you're giving them the power to think that, oh, well, okay, you know, they're really taking notice of me. And sometimes that's all that's needed. We have the moon, the emotional planet, which moves every couple of days, moving through Cancer at the moment. So this is sort of a stellium of planets, but one of the planets in the middle is not actually a planet. I know that sounds confusing, but we've got 3 energies, let's put it that way, all holding hands together in Cancer at the moment. And I want to talk about that. The first one is the moon. So the moon governs our emotions, how we're feeling, you know, good, bad, or indifferent. The moon is holding hands or conjunct what's known as an Arabian part, is the part of fortune. No, this is not where you're going to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow with the leprechaun. It just means where we've got opportunities that are coming towards us at the moment that we shouldn't waste. Now, the part of fortune is conjunct or holding hands Jupiter. Now, these are all sitting in the sign of Cancer. So this is going to affect the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, and the opposite sign of Cancer is Capricorn. I have a mental blank then for a minute. So it's interesting to see that these opportunities are coming. So first of all, it's going to tug on the heartstrings. It's going to tug on the emotions. Then you're going to see that the opportunity, or the things that can present themselves, are there. And it's asking you to take maybe a leap of faith with Jupiter here, that, you know, you can do some big, bold things. You can do things that maybe push you out of your comfort zone a little bit. It's time to really look at what your opportunities are and the things that you can bring into place. Yes, this might be a short-term transit that's going on now, but Jupiter being in Cancer is a much, much longer term transit. So it's saying to you, this is like the kickstart. This is the idea. This is where we write things down and we start to formulate the plan. It's not necessarily where we put it all into action, but this is where we get things off the ground, which is good. So sometimes we need to just have these light bulb moments so we can take notice, we can write the ideas down, we can jot them into our, our cell phone or our device, and go back and refer to it later and fill in the details then, but we've got the headlines down, we've got the outline down, and sometimes that's the important thing, to have those few words down that sort of then triggers when we've got a bit more time to really research this or look at this or give it time. We've got the headline package of, oh yeah, that's right, that's what I was thinking. So it's really important. So if you're a water sign, really important at the moment, some very, very creative opportunities coming towards you, and opportunities to really expand your world right out. And expansion doesn't always take the form of financial expansion. It can be other ways too. So make sure that, with Jupiter here, you don't sort of tend to give yourself a few extra little treats and expand your waistline at the same time. It's not saying that you can't have some. It's just saying, instead of having the whole cake, only have maybe a piece of cake or two. Don't have the whole cake. Leave some for someone else, or freeze it and have it at a later date. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. And I know that's a little bit difficult for some people that have got a real sweet tooth. So we're going to talk about Saturn now, and we're going to move into the Aries part of the chart. I don't necessarily break down the whole 12 signs. What I do is I pick out what I believe is the highlight package for the moment, where the planets are sitting, before we go to air. And this really jumped out at me today, was what's happening actually in Aries. And I have lots of Aries friends, and a lot of them have been phoning me this week saying, what on earth is going on? I really can't sort of settle. I feel confused. I sort of, I go to get motivated and I get started, and then I get stopped, and then I second guess myself, and I really don't know what's going on. Well, look, we can give them a little bit of a free pass at the moment, Aries, and this will be affecting the other fire signs too, which is Leo, Sagittarius, and the opposite sign of Libra. And we've got Saturn and Neptune have just moved in the last few weeks out of Pisces, where they've been for a very long time, into Aries. Now, normally this, is enough of a culture shock anyway, when you've got Saturn, the planet of discipline, the father figure, sort of coming in and sort of wielding a big stick and saying, we're going to get everything motivated, we're going to get everything right, and we're going to do it the right way, and we're going to dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and we're going to go back and check and recheck until we're sick of checking. And it sort of seems very monotonous for an Aries, which wants to go in, get the job done, and get moving. We only want to do it once, or even half of it. If we can only do it once and get away with it, terrific. And then we've got Neptune, the planet of illusion, delusion, creativity, of sort of coming in and sort of stirring everything up and creating a mystical fog, and sort of saying, well, okay, it's time to sort of get really, really creative. And Neptune here sometimes can sort of work in tandem with Saturn, but sometimes it can work against Saturn too. So when you've got those sort of two together, and both of them are currently sitting retrograde at the moment, or going backwards, it seems to be making the energies much more intensified, much more confusing. And because they're sort of such dominant outer planets, they're sort of pulling back the energy of Aries, and Aries doesn't like to be held back at any time. When they're on a mission, that's it, let's go. There's no stopping. There's, two speeds, stop and fast comes first, and stop comes if you have to, so they are really finding it very, very difficult. So my suggestion there is just chill, go with the energy. Don't try and fight it. Let it happen in its own way, and just let it be. Then finally, the final piece of energy I want to talk about, that's also in Aries too, but at the opposite end of the Aries energy, is Chiron. Now, Chiron's not a planet, it's the wounded healer. It's been trying to transform Aries people now for a few years now. It's been trying to make them well. So if there's been physical issues or emotional issues or whatever, or just your whole life needed revamping or transforming or taking you in a new direction, this is what Chiron's role's been. So you've got Saturn and Neptune at the beginning of Aries sort of saying, I'm wielding the big stick. Make sure you get your creative hat on. Make sure that you're really listening to what people have got to say, and then make your decisions. You don't need to be in a hurry. And then at the opposite end of the Aries energy, we've got Chiron still trying to sort of pull pieces together, trying to bring your life into some sort of order, sort of saying, have you really done the homework that I've set for you? Because your life needed to be transformed. It wasn't comfortable the way it was prior. So it's been a really big learning curve for some time now for Aries. So I hope that you've enjoyed this, and it helps you sort of get through your next week. So we're going to take our first caller, and it's Corinne in Winnipeg in Manabito in Canada. Are you there, Corinne?
Yes, I am, Amanda, and thank you for doing this for me.
Oh, you're very, very welcome, sweetie. Do you have a question I can answer for you?
Yes, I've been having some problems medically. And I was just wondering,
No.
are they ever going to find out how to cure it?
Yeah, look, it's always a troubling situation, isn't it, Karina, as we get older and our bodies don't cooperate the way that they did when we were younger and we were indestructible. And,
No.
and sometimes I think it's harder because we don't have answers, and technically speaking, I'm not a doctor, so I can't directly answer a medical question. But what I can do is look at it from an energetic point of view. And what they're showing me there, Corinne, is that you're being made to have a rest, that this is really important. It's not so much surrender to what's going on, but it's just allow yourself to just say, okay, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that today, or my body and my soul says I'm not to do this today, and give yourself a free pass. I do feel that there's going to be, is there a series of doctor's appointments you've got coming up next month? Because there seem to be sort of like one thing after another, and it's like I'm really exhausted going from one situation to the other, and I'm still not getting any answers, or that's how it seems. But at the end of it, there will be some answers. So whether that means they're going to send you for further tests or they're sending you to someone else, but it seems to be a month of activity coming up in August, particularly from the second week. And then by the end of the month, it's like, okay, well, we've got some answers here. We've got some labels. We've got some direction. I don't know that we've necessarily got permanent cures, but we've got an easing of your health issues. So has it been baffling to the medical fraternity, has it?
Yes, you're 100% right in that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting
Yeah, I just
tired
go
to
with what they
keep
show
going to
me.
them.
Yeah. Look, I want to be clear. They didn't show me anything that I would consider that is a major problem. When I look at something for a major problem, to me, it wasn't terminal. So anything above that is a positive.
Good, good.
But
Anything above that I can also handle,
absolutely.
You have
we can
to
adjust them.
You're
Yeah,
right,
you can adjust
Amanda. You have to accept
something.
certain things.
Absolutely, we do, and it's unfortunate because I think as we get older and our bodies start to fail us, it's the wrong way round, isn't it? We've all of a sudden got all this wisdom of life, and now we haven't got the physical stamina or aware, or the body doesn't do as it's told to be able to utilize that. It's sort of the wrong way around, in my opinion. But yeah, what they were showing me was, yes, there'll have to be adjustments to your lifestyle, but it's something that you can live with. It's like, well, okay, if I understand I can't walk 4 miles anymore and I can only walk half a mile, well, then that's all I'll do. You know what I mean? And if I
Yes,
go a bit above that, well, that's a terrific bonus. And it's sort of like readjusting that thinking. And I think once you've got some answers and you've got labels, it makes it so much easier, because then you're not dealing with what if this, what if that, what if. That's the hardest part, is not knowing. I think once you know what something is, you can then start to research it yourself. And there's so much information out there on the superhighway these days on the internet, that whether, a lot of it's good or whether it's bad, but at least you'll know intuitively, oh, well, that makes sense to me. I'll research that bit, or I'll take that bit on board, and then discard what doesn't, because each of us are different. And that's the thing, like we can all have the same illness, but we're all going to react differently to it because of our body chemistry, and how we emotionally deal with things too makes a big difference. And, it's unfortunate that our health doesn't sort of stay with us for the rest of our lives, but that's just sort of the way it is. But I know it's definitely not life threatening. They were showing me, yes, that there has to be adjustments, but look, at the end of August, you're going to be absolutely looking for a bed or a couch to just flake out on, because you've gone and had and seen so many different people that you're exhausted just from that, let alone what health issues are plaguing you on top of it. It's just sort of like you seem to be going somewhere every single day, or it feels like that. And it's like, I just want to rest. So maybe the suggestion now would be, if you can, get some meals prepared, whack them in the freezer, so that, at least you've got meals to come home to when you're exhausted and don't feel like doing anything. Because I truly believe food is medicine. And if we can keep good nutrition going, that's the most important thing, even if you don't feel very hungry, but making sure what you're putting into your body is what the body needs.
yes, yes, you're right. I can't thank you enough. You eased my mind, because the way I felt is the end is near.
Mhm. Yeah, but
and
that's
you're
because you
giving me
haven't
hope.
had any answers. Yeah, but that's why because you haven't had any answers. If you've got an answer and you've got a label, you can start to process it. You can start to deal with it. And I'm very big on nutrition and feeding your body what it needs, and not necessarily what's the latest fad diet. But what they were sort of showing me, and again, I want to stress, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a naturopath or anything like that. But they were showing me you're not getting enough protein. So maybe you need to look at that as ways that you can boost your protein with a shake or something, that if you don't feel that
Yes.
hungry, that you're making sure that you're getting that extra protein. They showed it to me 3 times, so that's why I'm sharing it with you, Corinne.
Oh, well, I thank you very, very much for that.
You're very, very welcome, sweetie. I've got to leave it there. I've got to move on to my next caller. We're going to talk with Monica now in Omaha, in Nebraska, in the USA. Are you there, Monica?
Yes, I am.
Do you have a question I can answer for you, sweetie?
I don't know what kind of type of question to ask. Like, basically,
Well, there must be.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say there must be a reason you called into the show, sweetie.
Well, yeah, just about my financial stability, getting a job in my marriage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Well, I'll answer as much as I can for you before we wrap the show up. It's really, really interesting because the first thing that they were showing me as I was tuning into you, Monica, was the fact that there's endings, change, and transformation coming up. When that comes up, that's always a good sign to me that whatever's been troubling you, whatever's been holding you back is now about to be moved away. I appreciate that money's tight because you haven't had, enough employment coming in to sort of, start to get you back on that treadmill of starting to sort things out. But what they're showing me is that there is a job coming, but it's going to come in the form of it's initially only a temporary or a part-time job. It's sort of something that you might get offered, look, 2 or 3 weeks work, and you think, well, that's nice, but I need more than that. I'm going to say to you, if it feels right, take it, because I feel it's going to lead into something more permanent. Sometimes things are presented to us in not quite the package or the way that we expected, and things will sort of progress from there. So are you looking for full-time work, or is it more you only want about 20, 25 hours a week?
No, it's full-time work, like remotely. I've been doing remote work for the last 6 years, so just want to keep with the
Right.
remote work and full-time.
Yeah, look, I feel that there will be that, but I think initially all this they're offering on a permanent basis is 25 guaranteed, and then there's extra hours that can be added. But to me, it'll before too long, it'll be more than a full-time job. So I think you need to be sort of looking at that and looking at that this is what you need to have. It's time now for a change. It's time for something that you can get your teeth into, and it will sort of happen. Why do I sort of feel as if you've been getting a few headaches?
Well, no, I haven't got no headaches. I just found out I had diabetes, so
Right. Okay.
I'm
All right. They
I
were
got
showing
no
me.
headaches.
Well, they were showing me a slight headache, and they give me something like that, and I'm not a medical intuitive or anything like that, and I'm certainly not a doctor, I take that as a warning. These were sort of like dull headaches, so if they start to happen, I don't want you to ignore them. They might be connected to your diabetes. It might be maybe your sugar levels not as it should be or something like that, but they showed it to me a couple of times, so I'm sharing that with you. The other part of your question was about your marriage, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I sort of feel as if it's like a comfortable sofa, but it's like I don't want to throw it out, but I don't like it either. It's sort of like I'm stuck in the middle. Look,
Mhm.
I sort of feel from that things will start to sort of reignite again next year. I think that the two of you sort of got so caught up in your own personal journeys that I don't know that there was enough time there being put into each other or being put into the relationship, the marriage as such, but that will start to sort of slowly come back again. Your husband's not the easiest person in the world to have a conversation with, though.
Right. Right. That's right.
And
Communication
that
is one of
makes
our
it
big
difficult
things.
when somebody just. Yeah, and that's probably the biggest problem in the marriage is you've got things to say and he doesn't sort of say anything back or give you any input. Look, all I can
Right.
say to you is I don't feel this marriage is over, but I do feel next year when things start to improve and change, there is a lightness coming back into the marriage again. And I mean, look, we can't teach the old dog new tricks, but, maybe he might sort of occasionally give us some sort of input, which will be helpful. But, he's happy. And as long as you're happy with things the way, in some sort of fashion, the way
Yeah.
they are, I don't see any reason for a change. I mean, it's not unbearable, is what I'm saying. It's just that you'd like a few things to change. And, sweetie, people don't change, like they might improve for a little while, but they always revert back to type. So, and I think once we get you into
Yeah.
a better job where you're happier in yourself, I think that will make a world of difference to you and will spill over into the marriage as well. So it's really important that, in some sort of ways you've been so focused on yourself, Monica, and what you need and what's wrong in your life, that's made the marriage situation become more amplified, if that makes any sense.
Well, I just like it hasn't been the same. I'm just wondering, like, if he's having an affair, has he just been different?
No.
Really, really different. I mean, we had.
No, he's not having an affair. No, he's certainly not having an
Okay.
affair. I don't think he's been well. I don't think he's been 100% well, and I don't think he's sort of told you about that. He's been feeling incredibly tired. That's where the headaches are. He's been getting the
Okay.
headaches, not you. So
Yeah.
maybe just gently, you might be able to suggest it might be time for both of us to go and have a physical and sort of bring it across that way. Now I know where the headaches are. So, yeah, he hasn't been well. And I think he's sort of got in his head that maybe there's something seriously wrong, but he doesn't want to find out about it because it might be proved right. There's nothing seriously wrong. It's something that can be easily changed or fixed or monitored,
Okay.
managed.
Okay.
I don't think it's life-threatening. I'll put it that way. Unfortunately, sweetie, that's where I've got to leave it. We've come to the end of the show, but think of some creative way of getting him to the doctors, please. It's really important, because then I think you'll see him bounce back and be a little bit more talkative than what he was. He's certainly not having an affair, sweetie. Okay, that's where we're going to leave Monica. It's always difficult when there's lack of communication in a marriage and things like that, and you start to think the worst. But in this case, it's more of a physical health problem than it is, a husband cheating on her. So this week, before I came on air, we heard the sad news of one of rock and roll's greatest singers has passed away, Ozzy Osbourne from Black Sabbath. And my producer jokingly asked whether that was a song I was going to feature at the end of the show. Look, I did think about it, but I didn't know that there was anything that I could think of off the top of my head that Ozzy would sing that would be uplifting and positive in any way. And, I have immense respect for Black Sabbath. I really used to enjoy their music when I was much younger. I don't say it's my first choice now, but, he's an icon. He will always be remembered, and people will always look up to him. And interestingly enough, I saw a little bit on the clip this morning, what motivated Ozzy to become a singer and to go into a band was the Beatles. Now, isn't that interesting? So many people started their careers because of what the Beatles did. So this week, I don't want to leave you with an Ozzy Osbourne song. I'm going to leave you with a song that I started watching a special last night, a documentary on another singer that I really have immense respect for. And it's always interesting when you see their lives haven't been as easy as we think they've been. We only see the fame and the stardom and the riches, but we don't know how their journey got them to that point. And it's one of my favourite singers of all time, and he's a great storyteller. I think a great icon, and, from rags to riches sort of story. And, he says that, life's journey shaped him, and that's where his music comes from. I'm talking about the one and only Billy Joel. And this is my absolute ultimate favourite, and I like the long version of this song, Just the Way You Are. So don't go changing. We love you just the way you are, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.